Hello and welcome to the Serpent Temple podcast. This week we're going to be looking at 3 new releases, the first of which will be Unslayable by Tyrannus, the second of which will be It's Time to Rise from the Grave by Undeath, and the third of which will be by Darkher, and that is called The Buried Storm. So, what do you think of Tyrannus, Floyd?
First, I love the way you paused on the Undeath album. So, it's time to rise from the grave.
It's got the little dots. You gotta do the pause. Yeah,
you gotta do now. Good attention to detail. Right, so Unslayable, just like this pollen, huh? Am I right? Oh! I might have said that joke already. Right, so this is the debut album from the newly formed East Coast Scottish band, friend of the podcast, Callum Cant. Safe to say, the mastermind behind the project. So he is handling most of the musical duties on the album.
Aye.
So guitars, vocals. I believe he's written the vast majority of the music. But he's also got his partner in crime, Alistair Harley, who provides bass for the album. And I'm not sure whether or not Fraser Gordon or...
So Alistair Dunn was recording drums and percussion on the album. So he was on there, and Harley did gang vocals on It Taketh, Unslayable, and Light of the Last Sun.
There you go. That's why Nina is a much better note taker than I am.
I just copy-pasted on Bandcamp, but thank you.
Yeah, that's the last time I get my information from Metal Archives.
Oh, no.
I'm like, should have just fucking messaged him, to be honest. That probably would have been
Yeah, we could have done that.
But... safe to say, this album, so I really, really enjoyed it. And one of the things, one of the points I was going to make was one thing I really like about music within the black death metal sphere is when it has like a touch of class to it. It's almost like a suaveness to it. I mean, I think the production really lends to that because it's got kind of like, it's a really good crystal clear production. Like everything sounds good. I think the bass sounds great at a lot of moments as well. It's given a nice kind of opportunity to shine. And yeah, I think it's just kind of just something so inherently cool about like angular riffs mixed with like the blasting brutality. And there's a lot of cool things going on in this album. And I think, you know, from all intents and purposes, it seems to be taking like the underground scene by storm a little bit from in that particular scene anyway.
It really is a gem. I would describe it as having cheekbones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's angular, it's crystalline, there's like a lot of good stuff going on. It's a really pretty album, but it's also very brutal. It's like got darkness, but also a little bit of light.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I don't myself have much cheekbones.
Me too, I just got big fat cheeks.
Yeah, I used to have dimples when I was a kid.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, I was a really cherubic child. And then it just all went tits up.
Oh. Yeah. Well, yeah. This is a really cool album. I mean, Callum's been on the podcast, so you can go and check that episode out if you want to get some like real detail on this stuff. But yeah, it's just wonderful when a friend makes a really amazing record and you're like, huh, this is like really fucking cool. And I know the person and they're a good person, so it makes it double good.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think, you know, and the thing is, I think I always try and be as objective as possible when listen to an album by someone that I know has recorded it. But like, I could safely say hand on heart that they've done a great job with
amazing.
This album.
Yeah.
I like everything. Like I'll go through a few of my favorite bits on the album. Firstly, I think it's done a really great job with the vocals. You could definitely hear like the Jeff Walker style influence, and it's kind of going back to that point I was making on an earlier episode where, like, you know, I appreciate both schools of like extreme metal vocals. I love like the super like monstrous like guttural like approach where you can't discern a single word, but I also equally appreciate vocals that are a bit more controlled and kind of like more snarling and menacing when you can actually make out the lyrics. I think there's a place for both styles, and I think Callum's done a great job of kind of like, you know, channeling his inner Jeff Walker, and it's kind of like a blackened Jeff Walker.
Yeah.
Even down to the phrase and the stuff. I really like the way the phrasing is very well placed, and you know, and that's the problem I think with a lot of black and death metal. I think vocals can sometimes be a bit of an afterthought. And a lot of the times they're just like, fuck it, just do something. Someone in the band who can do a semi-competent scream, just layer some fucking screams over the music. But no, I feel like it's a component of the music here. And going on to the music itself, I really love like the guitar work on this album. I think it's at times, and I mean this as a compliment because I do like this band, it kind of reminds me of Leprous at moments.
Oh yeah, I get you.
And I think it's just that thin where there's that hint of progginess, and I think, you know, just something a bit different from the norm. And you know, like it's like there's a lot of transitions that happen on this album. And I think, you know, in the hands of a lesser skilled musician, it would sound quite clumsy and not that cohesive. But here actually flows quite well. Like, I like the overall flow of the album, and I like how each song seems to take on like a different kind of mood and atmosphere. Like, for example, the title track Unslayable, like that starts off with almost like a Bay Area thrash style, like super frenetic riff, which is, you know, a bit of a turn from the track before, which is the Lake of the Undying, which is like a, you know, a 3-minute instrumental, which is primarily clean guitars. And, you know, you've got Like the Last Sun, which is more or less like an atmospheric black metal tracks. You know, like there's elements of like second wave black metal in there, and there's just a lot of cool shit going on. I love the vocals at the end of the last track as well, Break the Will of Evil. I love like the dual layering of the both clean vocals. And it's I believe it was guest vocals from Ameo Lopez Caramero.
Was that Maud the Moth?
That is Maud the Moth, yes.
Yes, really good vocals there.
Yeah, but it's a great job, and it kind of reminds me a bit of you liked The Satanist by Behemoth, right? Or
Yeah,
Behemoth,
it was good.
Sorry.
Yeah, not that I'm a fan of Nurgle, but it was a good album. Yeah.
And that's kind of like it's like, you know, when Oh Father, Oh Satan, Oh Son, like the last track on the album.
Yeah.
Because I believe, I might be getting this wrong, I think that is the first time he employs like clean vocals.
Oh, really?
And it was,
I didn't know that.
It was cool that it was like added in on the last track on the album. And I love when bands like give thought to shit like this. It's kind of like, you know,
I get you.
And, you know, obviously this is Tyrannus' debut album, so it's not like, you know, this is very much they're laying the blueprint of what the sound is now. Whereas like Behemoth, where I'm gonna say Behemoth. That's how I've always called them. Like it was such a unique thing to hear at that point, because they'd been such a traditional sort of black and death metal band for the longest time. But I think, you know, it shows some maturity in the songwriting that is already prevalent at such an early stage of the band's kind of career. So, yeah, super enjoyed it. I'm talking a lot of shit.
No, you're not. It's beautiful. I agree with everything you said, basically. I thought, like, I really like that there's always something going on. Every part of the album is, like, thought out. Like, they've really put all loads of attention to detail into everything. I really love that Callum basically worked with Kate as well, his partner.
Yeah, of course,
and she like gave a lot of she kind of tweaked bits and pieces here and there, and like it's kind of cool because having someone outside to come in and be like, have you considered doing this, have you considered doing that, and someone who's also like close to you in that way, they understand what you're trying to do. It kind of naturally will take it to the next level to an extent. So I think it's really amazing that she's credited as a producer. Oh no, I hit the microphone stand. Sorry if there's a weird boinging sound. But yeah, I think it's really amazing that she's credited, that the production on this is fantastic. I can tell this is like a really considered, well-written record. From my personal songwriting point of view, I really like that there's like a little bit of a break halfway through the album. I love it when there's like a little instrumental break.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps like cleanse the palette and get ready for like, you know, some really kind of heavy stuff to come straight afterwards. So that was really nice. I thought that was kind of cool. And I really also, with the vocals, massive improvement, like massive development is probably a better word, because they weren't bad, but they're like a lot better. And they do sound so much more Jeff Walker. They're like there's much more resonance. They're like much richer vocals, and the delivery is really good. I think the delivery really helps kind of tie all of the technical stuff going on together. And I like that kind of stabbing punctuation that happens occasionally. I thought that was really effective. Yeah.
No, yeah, and totally, and I'm also a big fan of when like the title of a song is like chanted as well at the end, or like sung. Like it's so cool, and he's done that in a couple of the tracks here.
Yeah,
and it's just no, you're totally right, and you know, I kind of see a vocalist a lot of the time as kind of like, you know, like the conductor of the band, like the one that's kind of like, you know, narrating what the album is about, you know, which makes sense because obviously they're the ones screaming the lyrics or singing the lyrics. But it's, I just feel like it's just something that's just overlooked, especially within this kind of realm of metal, like really that kind of the black and death thing. Not saying there's some amazing vocalists out there, but like do you ever listen to a band and you feel like the vocals don't match the music?
Yes,
at all?
I do. I'm so fussy about vocals, and like they really do make or break. Because if it's like a bad bass tone, I can kind of get over that. If the guitar tone's like, oh, that could be better, I can get over it. But if the vocalist isn't good enough, well, not necessarily that, but if I because to me that's the most human point of connection with the music.
Yeah.
And that's the most important part of like for me being able to enjoy a band. Whereas some people listen to bands because they love the bass or they love the drumming, love the guitar. But I think most people, the vocals will be their main point of connection too.
Yeah. No. Agreed. And yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on musically as well. Like I was saying before, like there's one track that just ends with like loads of fucking dive bombs. And it just sounds super cool. Like I'm a big fan of like guitar tricks, like anything that slides or like pinch harmonics and dive bombs. I'm just like totally a mark for that shit. So
yeah, it's a really fun album to listen to. This is like, I don't know, there's just something, there's a lot going on, and I know that the more I listen to it, the more stuff I'll notice. I'll be like, oh my god, it's so cool that they did this, or there's this little detail here. It's a really fun album. Yeah.
Yeah, no, cool. And that was the title track, by the way, that had the dive bombs at the end.
Unslayable.
That was Unslayable, yeah. Which is a furious. It's just there's a lot of good shit here, and it's like definitely got replay value as well. I would say
100%. This is gonna age really well. This album, I think, in years to come, people will be like talking about this as like one of those. I think as well for I don't know. I would love to go and see them play live. Like they just seem to have like a really good hype around them in Scotland, and I just love to go see them at like Bannerman's and see what that's like in the crowds. Yeah.
And plus, it's just a beautiful country to visit as well.
It's so nice. Yeah.
And I believe they're playing an album show today as well, aren't they? In Edinburgh.
Oh,
so the day this goes out, this will be the day before. So
yes, I hope it goes well, break a leg, etc.
So if you've got a DeLorean, you could travel back in time and attend the show.
And then get a train to Scotland. Yeah.
Or you just use the DeLorean to drive to Scotland.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, could do that. But we can't, so that's that. I really love that Tyrannus are anti-fascist. That is a Nina plus 100 style thing for me. Like, I love that I can listen to this and know that they're not dickheads. So that's good.
But it's kind of like, I think Callum himself was making the point when he was on the podcast, right? It's just like, it's actually really easy to be anti-fascist.
It is kind of like you'd assume the baseline level of human decency, let's say, to not be like, well, you've got different X, so I don't like you. Yeah, it's a bit silly, really.
But I think, therein kind of lies the problem. I think for the longest time, metal has been kind of like a bit of a hotbed for just a lot of problematic behavior in a lot of different areas. And I feel like, fuck. I mean, I've seen my fair share of weird shit going down at gigs and just stuff that is just not okay by like any societal standards. So.
Yeah.
And I think it just comes, maybe it's just that thing where, it's a fringe. I'd still consider it like a fringe hobby, like sort of like the metal scene. So I think therefore, you got that element where I think people are easily led down like certain paths and stuff. And I think it's easy to kind of lose your way. And I think it's just about finding out who you are and kind of like keeping true to yourself.
It's been proven that certain organizations will target specifically metalheads in specific genres because the angry young man is very malleable in the hands of certain people. And that is how you get a lot of recruitment into far-right organizations at certain black metal festivals. And that's like a whole thing, and they're literally funded by certain governments in Europe and things like that, which is a bit fucked.
Fucked indeed.
Yeah. But thankfully, there are people out there who aren't like that, and Tyrannus is one of those bands, which is good.
So I wish them all the best, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
I am mad excited. Hopefully we can catch them live this year and tell you guys who are listening and watching about it. Yes. But I think this is a good segue onto another fun band, Undeath.
It's time. Pause. To rise from the grave.
That is correct.
Yeah.
This is their second full length. Their first was released in 2020, so like they've churned this one out really quickly, I think.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's the thing is, because I suggested this band because there's a contingency of kind of like the death metal Twitter that I kind of follow. See, retweeted a lot of my timeline, and everyone was talking about this band and this album in particular, this new one. I gave the 2020 album a little listen to, and it was pretty fucking good as well. But like, I think there's clear progression on this album. But it was definitely much in the same way that Blood Incantation kind of took the world by storm a few years ago with their hidden races of the fucking hell. What's the
hidden something of the human race?
Hidden human history of the fucking Shem. Help me out here, man.
Of the human race.
There you go.
That's it. It was some hidden race human history stuff.
I was doing my Yoda impersonation as well. That's what was going on there. But no, yeah. So like this band was like taking the world by storm a bit. The death metal scene by storm anyway. And so yeah, I was just like, fuck, sounds like I need to check this band out. And I do know as well, the vocalist was on that kind of like panel, that podcast, which was talking about the incident with Chris Barnes
Oh,
from
is it?
6 Feet Under, who was like basically calling the rest of all the other death metal vocalists. I'm not going to say what he said, but he was calling out all the other death metal vocalists and calling them shit, basically. So, like, Corpse Grinder and I think Alex from this band, who's the vocalist of Undeath, and there's a couple of other. I can't remember who the other guys were, but it was like an ensemble of death metal vocalists basically talking about it. And
That's crazy. There's some seriously good death metal vocalists out there.
Yeah, but it's a weird one because in a way there is the thing is, and we were actually saying this before we started filming. I think there's a lot of homogeny in black and death metal.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of shit out there that's so substandard and just so derivative. And the interesting thing about this album, going back to the album itself, this is in many ways an homage to that classic 90s sound. Like there's nothing really on this album that's breaking new ground. But like for me, this is like a fantasy album I would write if I had the skills to write a death metal album. Because it's just total, like, even from the first track, Fiend for Corpses, like the clues in the title, like it's total like Cannibal Corpse worship.
Yeah,
like with all the guitar trilling and stuff. There's a lot of trilling going on. There's a prominent hardcore influence as well, which makes sense because they are from Rochester, New York.
Okay.
Same place as the late great wrestler Brody Lee. He was a wrestler that tragically died a few years ago. Which was a bit of a shame. That was a huge loss to the wrestling community. But yeah, so it's just like, just part of that seminal, really important New York scene. So bands like Suffocation, and I feel like there's a strong Suffocation influence here, especially in the vocals. Like he sounds extremely similar to Frank Mullen, especially kind of like Pierced from Within onwards, Frank Mullen. But yeah, there's just a lot of cool shit going on in this album. I'm foaming at the mouth. I'm spitting everywhere. But I'm quite interested to hear what your take is.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. Like, I can just tell they're having fun. At first I was like, yeah, this is like very meat and potatoes style music, like metal, which has meat and potatoes is a delicious meal. It's nourishing. It helps you build your strength for future meals that you will eat, future gigs you will go and mosh in, etc., etc. And then the more I listened, the more it unfolded. I love their logo and I love their artwork. It's ridiculous.
The logo's great, yeah.
And then when I saw that, like, everything else kind of made more sense. It was just kind of, I think I described them as like the Manowar of death metal at one point, just because of how like kind of heightened everything is, and like the lyrics are just something else. I was reading to you earlier, but I will say there is one detail that I didn't reveal to you before. And I was looking at the members, and some of them have some interesting side projects. So Kyle Bean, he did session/guest guitars for Bong Rips for Jesus, which is a thing. But then Alexander Jones, he did guest session vocals for a band called Frog Mallet.
Frog Mallet?
Frog Mallet.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
And the album is called Dissection by Amphibian.
Whoa, hold on.
I knew you would like this.
Let's draw a line here. I'm all for frogs wielding mallets as weapons, but I'm not for hitting frogs with mallets. So I take back everything I've said.
Dissection by Amphibian sounds like the frogs are doing the dissections.
Okay.
I think that might be, but I haven't looked into it because I was a bit worried about what would unfold.
I got very overly defensive there. Now that you've said the album title, it does sound like the amphibians are the aggressors. So
that's
I'm
only.
on board with that.
We could have a look. It was released in 2021, so it's
cool.
Fresh. But I thought that was an interesting tidbit of information.
Yeah, because I was getting flashbacks to when they asked me to dissect a frog.
Oh no!
Refused, walked out.
I can't believe someone would ask you of all people to do that.
So I'm not going to be part of this bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, walked out.
Damn right. Damn fucking right. Protect the frogs, as Frog Lord would say. The first song, Fiend for Corpses, the first chorus has the most ridiculous death metal lyrics. Well, among the most ridiculous death metal lyrics I've recently read. And they go, "The dead do not hear, not even a peep. D-E-A-D, they cannot speak. Of what parts I eat. D-E-A-D, with them I procreate and prep for my feast. D-E-A-D, I'm lusting for their taste."
So, do you know what that is like? That just totally just corroborates everything that's going on in the music. It's like old school. Do you know what I mean? It's corny, but in a way that's endearing. Because that's how death metal was like back in the days. It was fun. It was stupid. It was pushing the envelope. Like, you know, they were talking about some pretty despicable things.
Yeah.
It was much in the same way, like, you know, when you're watching like the Fulci horror films, the Hill Giallo thing. Like, it's totally like, you know, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and the good thing is, you know, in this, at least with this band, with being a modern band, they haven't went down, you know, like the super hyper misogynistic route,
right?
That a lot of other bands have went down.
I kind of feel like there's no way, like, because you know how people will watch like The Joker or Breaking Bad and be like, yeah, that guy's good. Yeah. The drug lord's great. Oh, this incel shooting people's fantastic. I want to be like this guy. I don't think anyone's going to read those lyrics and be like, necrophilia is so cool. You know, I don't think anyone's going to go to a graveyard and be like, DEAD. Yeah. These people will not be able to speak of which body parts I will consume as I meal prep for my necrophiliac fiending. I don't know. It's just...
That's like weightlifting death metal right there, isn't it? Just talk about meal prepping body parts for the
necrophiliac gym bros.
Well, I wonder what part of the human body is probably the best source of protein. I've always heard that between the fingertips is meant to be the tastiest.
I don't think there's much protein there, though. That's going to be mainly fat, isn't it?
Yeah, gristle and fat.
Yeah.
Probably the arse, I imagine.
I would have
muscle.
I feel like the thighs would be the one place that, if I had to choose, I would eat, because it'd be like a slice of Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it depends, like, who the person is, I guess.
Well, I'm presuming I'll never find out, so we can only ponder.
We can only ponder.
Unless I'm in a car crash. Oh, sorry, not a car crash. That sounds drastic. A plane crash. Like,
you imagine a world where you're in a car crash and loads of people disappear and start feasting on your body.
So, shit, I'm in a crash. I better start eating some fucking people.
I've got to heal straight away. Quick, give me that hand.
I meant a plane crash. Like your man, Gene, is it Gene Roddenberry?
Yeah.
So that's what happened with him, right? He was in a plane crash.
He was in a cannibal plane crash, yeah.
Yeah, crazy. But you got to do what you got to do in those situations. That's what I was referring to.
I would eat a person in that
crash.
situation. Like, I would much rather eat a person than like a Pomeranian. Like, if a Pomeranian was looking at me and a person, I'd be like, well, the Pomeranian is good inherently. That dog would not harm anyone. Like, on purpose. Whereas a human, nah, I'd eat the human for sure.
Have you seen the Pomeranian dog walker around there?
I love that guy.
Amazing.
He's like so 3 poms and they're all fucking cute. Yeah.
Adorable.
Anyway, necrophilia. It's good. It's very tongue-in-cheek. There's a song about human chandeliers and the guy's like, yes, I'm going to complete my human chandelier.
That's a great track. That might be my favorite track on the album, because I think it's kind of like them showing, right, we're going to run the full gamut on all our kind of like death metal influences here. Because, you know, there is some hints of like Morbid Angel and Death that creep in every now and again. Like, it is predominantly NYDM based, but like there's probably got my favorite riff on the album, which kicks in at about 2 minutes 40. Just like a proper rhythmic, like super like slappy bouncing riff. I just love it. And I think rhythmically this band have got things down really like fucking tight here. Like, the drummer I think is actually astounding for this band, because one thing I like in drummers is I like drummers that don't overplay, which is a bit of a contradictory thing to say, because one of my favorite drummers is Flo Mounier from Cryptopsy, who is like one of the most fill heavy and prominent drummers. But like, I think, you know, now I really appreciate when a drummer can actually help command the music and help make all the rhythmic changes and all the pace changes fluid as possible. And I think he does an absolutely stellar job of making sure that things are sounding absolutely as crisp and as fluid as possible. And his name's Matt Browning. I'll go run through the band members quickly. You got Matt Browning on drums, Kyle Beam on guitars, also in Frog Mallet.
Oh no, he's Bong Rips for Jesus. Sorry.
Oh, is he? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's Alexander Jones and Frog Mallet.
Oh, there you go. That's the vocalist. I'll definitely have to check that out. Tommy Wall on bass. That's like a great wrestler name, isn't it? Tommy Wall.
He is in literally a million bands.
That's like your standard bassist, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you want me to read some of them?
Yeah, go on. Let's hear some of them.
So he's in Acquisition, Brain Pan, Execution Hour, Low Flesh, Molten Way, Narrow Grave, Under the Earth, Necrolatic Composure, Tomb Warden, and Death Obsess, which checks out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love how one of the bands is called like Under the Earth. That's kind of like
it's all death stuff.
But that's kind of like a Hodor thing with this band. Like, Under the Earth, Undeath.
Oh my god, I didn't think about that. This guy just loves death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got Jared Welch on guitars as well. Welch. Welch. Yeah, Welch works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I just think of the brand of grape juice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really, really do like this album. I'm a complete death metal mark, though, so I've got a very biased opinion. One thing I do want to give a shout out to, I was listening to this album on Spotify, and Alex, the vocalist, was wearing a Morpheus Descends t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And that is like one of the top tier like cult death metal albums.
Is it?
Yeah. They've got an album called Ritual of Infinity, I believe. I'm trying to remember this from memory. I don't know if you've ever listened to that album before, Shem. But it's a fucking sick, like underground New York, like gem of an album.
Nice.
Like it's like it's similar to Suffocation. It's like one of the first albums to incorporate some of the more hardcore elements, but still sounds like old school and grim as fuck. It's a fantastic album. So I think obviously they're from New York, so they'd be aware of like the forefathers that came before them. So I think it's always good that these bands are. It's like when I was watching the video of the Origin drummer. John Longstrength do like playthroughs of his songs, and he was wearing like a Pete Sandoval shirt, and it was just like that is like the Morbid Angel drummer does not get as much recognition for how much he's pioneered a lot of the death metal drum techniques, like compared to some of the other drummers. And, like Dave Lombardo and Gene Hoglan are like the drummers, but like I would say Pete Sandoval is way up there as well. So I'm just going off on many tangents now.
No, it's good. They're good tangents. It's like a chocolate orange of tangentials.
But just a great album. It's just a good time. I love the track Bone Rot, just a nice sort of like 2 minute 40 second, just absolute rager of a track. Funeral Within is a great track. I feel like that one has got a bit more of kind of like your old school kind of like death, menacing kind of death metal feel to it. Enhancing the Dead, I like that track. Feels a more of a Morbid Angel flavor with that one. They do a really cool thing in that track actually, where like this is kind of going back to what I was saying about the drummer, where they've got like two main grooves going on with the rhythm guitars, the bass, and the drums, but the drum keeps switching the beat and the tempo to transition between grooves, so it's like alternating. It's going like back and forth. I don't have the musical knowledge to explain this properly, but if you listen to the track about 2 minutes in, you'll hear what the fuck I'm talking about.
That's cool.
I think I've said everything I need to say about this album. I'll just be blabbing some more.
Well, it's a fantastic album. It's a really fun one. It's nice to have like some. I feel like we've got a good selection this week. We've got like an absolutely like blistering record, and then there's this like fun, also like really heavy, really pounding record, and then the next one is like dark and emotional and like almost classical at times. Yeah.
No, it's good. I like when you've got a good mix, because I feel like consciously we always try and make sure that we're kind of like running like a bit of a varied kind of like bill, so to speak, when we're reviewing albums. Because otherwise we'd just be saying the same shit over and over again.
And that'd be really boring.
Yeah. Like, there's only so many superlatives and adjectives you can use to describe guitars and shit, especially reviewing 3 death metal albums back to back. Like by the end, I'll just be like, oh, I like deep vocals, I like fast guitars. Just
slabs of distortion, walls of sound.
Start to sound like Anthony Fantano now. the grinding buzzsaw guitars.
Well, I'll take it if I get like a modicum of his success.
Yeah. I'm kind of rocking a bit of a Fantano haircut at the moment.
Yeah, me too.
Which I'm not going to show on camera. Not until I actually get my haircut properly.
Oh, no, we all have great hair on this podcast.
That's a lie.
Sometimes it's on our chins, sometimes it's on our heads. Distribution is key. But shall we move on to Darkher?
Yes, let's move on. So, so this is a band from West Yorkshire, I believe. That's what I had listed. And it consists of, I'm presuming, the mastermind behind the project, because her pseudonym is Darkher, right? So it's Jane Hannah Darkher Vissenberg.
So I've got Jane Maven.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, there you go.
Maybe that's...
I think I took it from Bandcamp, maybe.
I took mine from Bandcamp too.
No.
Because they're not on Metal Archives.
I took mine from a German Wikipedia page about the band, which I then translated into English.
Do you think they Germanized her?
Maybe.
Or maybe she's got like a full name that she doesn't use. Because I've just got Darkher were conceived as the sole brainchild and solo project of Northern English singer and guitarist Jane Maven in 2012.
Well, there you go. If that's from the Bandcamp, then I think that is more or less going to be the correct information, right?
I'm assuming they've written it, whereas I don't know about German Wikipedia. I've not explored that avenue of information.
Yeah, it's weird that actually I've noticed that with quite a few. Oops, sorry, just whacked the microphone. With a few UK bands in the past, where they have For some reason, they don't have a UK Wikipedia, but there's a German Wikipedia page. It's like that for a lot of deathcore bands, because I think it's quite a big deathcore scene in Germany.
German metal fans are like really into UK bands, some of them.
Yeah.
Because like we have more German fans than UK band fans.
Really?
With Lowen, yeah. It's like German and American.
Oh, what about the guy? What was the YouTube video of the guy?
Oh my god, that was amazing. There was this guy and he was like losing his shit.
Yeah.
And he would like speed up his voice. So it'd be really high pitched, right?
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. And he was using this like German slang. I can't remember what it was. He was saying this word over and over again. And we were like, what's going on?
That's amazing.
It's so funny.
And didn't someone remix a Lowen track with a Ne Obliviscaris track?
He's done it loads. Like every few months, I'll just get like a notification being like, your music has been copyright flagged on YouTube. And I'll look and it's like a mashup of like The Witcher and like 3 other bands. And there was like another one with us and I think like a problematic band.
That's
It's really like, oh no. But the videos are like really epic. And he's just like, he's done so much remixing. I should probably share them on the band pages.
Yeah.
Not the problematic one, obviously, but yeah.
Shout out to that guy.
He's a Russian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be on he might not be there anymore, I don't know. Like,
Oh man.
yeah.
Right, but this album, Darkher, The Buried Storm, I'm a noob with this band. This is my first foray into their
Same.
music. I had a quick listen to the 2016 album Realms.
Probably.
Yep, it was Realms, so I
Good.
did make a note at the bottom. And I can actually hear like a very clear progression on this album.
Same. I did the
Like,
same thing as you.
And I think, not to say that the other album was bad or anything, but like, this album, I think it seems to have a lot more kind of like post-metal or just post-rock music qualities to it that I really dig. There's times where I love like walls of sound in music, and I love, like this album, when I listen to it, kind of conjures up an image of like just like a wall of fog with like the sun peeking through.
Ooh, yeah. I see that. Yeah, it's like a world between worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And it is. I just love the way, and I think the inclusion of a lot of the string instrumentation on this album really lends to the atmosphere of the album. Because I notice a lot of the time the string instrumentation is actually accompanying the guitar on a lot of time and kind of add into that sound, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah.
And reminiscent of bands I love, like such as Mono, for example. I think are an absolutely fantastic band that also use strings in a lot of their music. And it's just such a soundscapey sort of album. And quite cinematic in scope a lot of time as well.
It feels almost like when I'm watching Vikings at the moment, and I'm like finishing the whole series, and it kind of reminds me of Vikings at times. This is a real compliment. Like, it has genuine cinematic qualities. Like, I can totally see this being taken on in like a sync deal by like a film or a TV show, and it would just be perfect. It's so stunning. I really love this music.
Is there any reason why everyone's watching Vikings all of a sudden? I feel like everyone's jumped on it recently.
There must be some kind of marketing thing. Oh, because Vikings Valhalla came out.
Ah, okay.
So I think that's made people like me who stopped watching Vikings at like season 5, part 2 or something to like finish off the series. Yeah.
I've only seen one bit, and it's a gif of a guy who's on like a boat, and he leans backwards and backflips and lands it, and he rolls his eyes to the back of his head at the same time.
Amazing.
That's super fucking cool. It might be the main guy. Is it Ragnar?
Ragnar, yeah, he's sick. Yeah.
But could be. I don't know. I don't know anything about the show.
Vikings is legit like a really metal show. There is like one of my favorite bits. I don't know what season it is, but there's like a bit where they blood eagle a guy.
Oh, I heard about the Blood Eagle.
Yeah, and there's like all these guys going blood eagle. Blood eagle, and like really thick Norse accents, and this guy's just getting this fucking rib cage opened up, and it's like you hear all the bone cracking and the blood's going everywhere, and he's like shrieking, and they have like human sacrifice like ritual stuff, and like literally Wardruna like came in like season 3 or 4 and started doing loads of soundtrack stuff. There's like loads of really great soundtracks in it and brutal fucking fight scenes. It's really good.
To tell you, I saw Ina Selvik from Wardruna once.
Really?
He came to a place of work I was working at. And he was wearing like this really fluffy cardigan.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was with his kid, I think.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I only recognized him because he had like the braided goatee thing.
That is so cool.
Because I was watching, because this was part of the Enslaved 3 shows that they did promoting the project Skugja with Ina Selvik. And so Wardruna were playing that night in the Elephant Castle's, the Coronet of all places.
Damn.
Which is just an absolute dive. I think it might be closed down now, so I could say, what shithole.
Yeah.
There's just people so rude as well.
No way.
They're just, I remember queuing up for the ticket, and when somebody's just so unnecessarily rude, and like it doesn't take anything to just be a bit more fucking professional. And it was just like, oh, do you have your ticket ready? I was like, yeah, it's just in my back pocket. And I was like, oh, well, you don't have it ready. I'm thinking, yeah, I do have it ready in my back fucking pocket. I'm not walking to the thing like this, holding the fucking ticket in my hand like Willy Wonka. Like, what the fuck?
That is so weird.
So, yeah, obviously I haven't gotten over it.
No, I'm salty. I
6
had
years ago.
I went to Tesco a few days ago, and I always say hello to the cashier, and she just fucking blanked me. But she was talking to Shem.
Yeah.
But every time I talked to her, she'd just straight up blank me. And I was like, I was trying to be really nice. I do not understand. I mean, I kind of think I know why, but it can't be like, yeah. But it was just annoying and weird, and I'm not over it. So I get you. Bad service can stay with you for years.
Yeah. Well, actually, get back to the album.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that. Instead of my experience in Tesco. Yeah, this album's fucking amazing. And as you say, I think the strings are a really strong part of the album. So I got turned on to this because a friend of mine, Ariana Massayer, who's an incredibly talented cellist, she's on this. And it's just fucking beautiful. Like, I saw her posting some of the promo pictures of her and Jane Maven, and they're like really beautiful ethereal pictures of them in like Yorkshire on the moors, with their hair blowing in the wind and like with the cello and everything. And it was just really interesting. It intrigued me. And usually I don't really go for stuff like this. It's quite hard to get my interest, but I could just tell it was gonna sound beautiful, and it does. Yeah. And I just love this. There's 3 different cellists and violin, and I think that strings is really difficult. I think a lot of people, when they think of strings, they think of a person they went to school with who couldn't play the violin, and it sounded really bad, because it's really hard to make those things sound good. But when they're played properly and when they're recorded properly, they're fucking beautiful instruments. They're like really vocal, melodic instruments that really add to like the emotion, and kind of it, like this album feels like it's about to break down into tears at times, or like break out into the opposite of like euphoria. And I think that's really been conveyed beautifully by the recording. It was recorded in Germany, which probably explains the German Wikipedia entry, by Michael Zeck at the Church of Sound Studio. And it was written, recorded, and engineered, produced, and mixed by Jane Maven. So it was just mastered by Michael Zeck, actually, which is pretty fucking impressive. Yeah.
No, that's very impressive.
Yeah, and photography as well was by Jane and Catherine Pogue. And they have like an art book and stuff like that. So it's obviously like a real work of like a labor of love, I'd say. Like they've really worked on every aspect of this being a piece of art.
Yeah, it's good. I think what I really enjoyed about the album was I love the combination of like the kind of like there's a lot of like kind of folkish or like dark folk elements of the album, but like combined with some real kind of like almost doomy elements. Like there's times when the guitars even were a bit reminiscent of bands like Amun Ra, for example.
Yes, I definitely get the Amun Ra thing.
And then even the drums, like very, very tribalistic and tom heavy, like similar to like Neurosis in certain albums. So I think it was just that it has that edge to it as well that I think would easily capture the attention of a lot of people that were into, you know, like a lot of metal bands. Because in essence, this isn't, you know, like a metal album per se, but like it definitely has that crossover appeal, like a band like Solstafir has, or a band like Wardruna, because it has enough, like I think, sincerity and like genuine songwriting about it that just captures the ears of anybody that enjoys good music, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a heavy album, but not necessarily in like an on paper heavy metal sense. I just think it's heavy.
Yeah.
And it really appeals to, I think, probably the sensibilities of a lot of people that would listen to metal because of that heaviness, but it doesn't have to be, because it's a really distorted, layered guitar, wall of sound style, meat and potatoes thing. This is like a very, a fine French dessert. It's like very complex ingredients.
It's not a spotted dick.
It's not a spotted dick. This is quite the opposite of Undeath, I would say. Yeah.
Undeath is definitely a spotted dick if you're comparing it to desserts.
I think you would be a spotted dick after the first song, if you like.
Yeah. I just want to confirm for anybody, since we seem to have a large contingency of American listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Spotted dick is a UK dessert, and I'm not referring to a STD riddled penis.
An unsayable act that we would never do. It's just English food is weird. You've got like spotted dick, and what's the other one that sounds... Toad in the hole. Why does it all sound like awful sex?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very strange.
I was going to say about this album in particular, for the records, this is completely brought together by the amazing vocal performance.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, it is stunning vocally. And like, I love the use of like, there's at times in the album where it sounds like the falsetto or the higher register vocals are kind of layered and also helping to add to that wall of sound as well. One track in particular, Love Sudden Death, that's a good track for an album. That starts off with like, kind of like that menacing and brooding angular guitar that was talking about, with like the doomier aspect kind of meeting at the crosshairs with the folk. But I love it at the end. It's like this vocal trade-off of like kind of like obviously shrill falsetto vocals mixed with like the more kind of whispered, folkier kind of, really intimate vocal style. And it just sounds really well blended, and it's just well curated. And I think, judging by the fact that, that Darkher has basically created this all themselves, that it sounds like it.
Yeah, it's really. I feel like I'm like snooping in on someone's dream that like could turn into a nightmare any moment.
It's like that episode of The Red Dwarf where they have the machine where they can look into people's dreams.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, it's just a stunning album, and it's really, I think people are really critical of this kind of vocal a lot of the time, but it's so beautiful. It's really, really well done, especially with high vocals like the violin. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know how to record that, or they'll be so focusing on like the guitar aspect that the kind of higher frequencies are neglected in the recordings, but this hasn't happened here at all. It's really rich.
It's something I really need to explore a bit more, because I am inevitably people are going to draw comparisons to acts like Chelsea Wolfe. And I think even like there's a lot of bands that would play at a festival like Roadburn, for example, where like they seem to be shining a bit of a spotlight on these more kind of like songwriting or just orientated acts where it's more intimate, and like they gave Lingua Nota the artist in residence spot this year.
Oh, she's
I think
incredible.
She did. I know originally it was meant to be.
She was there.
I thought it was originally meant to be her and Full of Hell, but I don't know what it ended up being, because obviously I didn't go. So
yeah.
So
it looked amazing. So.
It looked fantastic. I saw a little isolated clip of her performance, and it sounded amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's great that that a festival like, seems like it always comes around to me fucking arse licking Roadburn, but it was such a great experience when I went there.
Serpent Temple want to play Roadburn, please, Walter and Becky.
But like they do such a great job of creating the festival and just encompassing such a wide range of different acts, and because it's not even just heavy music, it's pretty much the whole spectrum.
Yeah, I like that it's not. Yeah, they curate the sets, and they have like artists there as well, like showing their artwork, and they have the panels as well. Tom Dare was doing like an LGBTQ+ panel.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that looked really cool. And they just have like, it's interesting because I feel like it's an artists' festival. Like people who really get nerdy about that stuff would love it there, and that's kind of us as well. So it's the perfect kind of deal.
It's like, I think Converge played like once in like 2015 or something, and Jacob Bannon goes every year, irrespective of what's happening. The year I was there, he was just outside one of the venues, just painting shit.
That's so cool.
And it was just so fucking just. Like, I can understand why from the outside looking in, people think it's like, like the hipsters Nirvana, but like, it's so totally fucking cool, man. Like, you can't help but be caught up in it when you're there. It's such a great experience. And by all accounts, it sounds like this year's festival went pretty well. So,
hell yeah.
So I'm glad it did, because I know a lot of festivals are having, operational and logistical nightmares with trying to get things up and running again. So I do not envy those people at all.
Hell no. But I think this quite nicely rounds off things.
I believe so. I think so as well.
Yeah. Any final remarks on any of the albums this week?
I think it's just another good week. I think I quite like this thing we're doing of reviewing just newer albums.
Yeah, I think it's good because I feel like we're kind of, especially when it's bands at the levels with, not all of them, but like it's nice to kind of help people get a bit of a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, look at
our huge audience.
like Phlebotomized, for example. Like, I love Phlebotomized. Like, I've been listening to that band for fucking years.
Yeah.
And I was totally like stoked at the fact that they even recognized it and were like appreciative of it. Because I'm just like, shit. It's just like I literally like grew up with like immense, intense suspense.
That's so cool.
So just shit like that. I just find it super cool. Afterbirth as well. Like,
yeah.
That was just like,
it's just so cool that people actually watch it and they're like, oh, they're talking about my thing. So whatever, but yeah, it's nice, and I hope anyone watching, hello, your art is amazing. Thank you so much for making it, and audience, thank you for watching as well.
Yeah, and say feel free to recommend us some music. Been a while since we've had a good recommend. We had White Ward, turned out to be a good one. That was a great album.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's any albums you want us to check out, our ears are open.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Serpent Temple. Goodbye.
Till next time. Nice.